Good morning to all of you. In the last class, we have discussed the working of monostable multivibrator. We have also derived an expression for the pulse width with reference to monostable multivibrator. In today's class, we will cover important applications of monostable multivibrator. Before we step into the applications of monostable multivibrator, let us try to understand the once again the working principle of monostable multivibrator. This is the circuit diagram of monostable multivibrator. So the circuit contains three resistors, 5 kilo ohm. Each resistor value is going to be 5 kilo ohm. That's why the name is triple five timer. Uh, so this 5 kilo ohm resistor, 3 5 kilo ohm resistor establishes voltage here. If you can apply voltage division rule, we can obtain the voltage at this point. So voltage at pin number 5 is nothing but VCC times uh, uh, the 10 kilo ohm resistor. This is sum of these two resistors divided by 15 kilo ohm resistor. So if we simplify that, the voltage at pin number 5 is found to be, it is 2 by 3 uh, VCC. So this is the voltage at pin number 5. Similarly, we can apply voltage division rule and find out voltage at the non-inverting terminal of comparator 2. So therefore, voltage here is 1 by 3 VCC. 1 by 3, this is VCC. This can be estimated by supply voltage VCC times 5 kilo ohm divided by 5k plus 5k plus 5k. It is 15k. So if we simplify that, that value is found to be 1 by 3 VCC. Now we came to know the voltage at two nodes. Voltage at pin number 5 or inverting terminal of comparator 1 is 2 by 3 VCC. Voltage at non-inverting terminal of comparator 2 is 1 by 3 VCC. These two voltage levels are important in understanding the working of this monostable multivibrator. So now we have two comparators here. They are labeled as comparator 1 and comparator 2. The output of comparator 1 goes to set input of RS flip-flop. The output of comparator 2 goes to the reset input of RS flip-flop. The output of flip-flop is Q and Q bar. This is normal output, and Q bar is the complement or inverted output. From inverted output, we take the output of 555 timer. So the normal output Q that goes to the transistor, discharge transistor, this is called as a discharge transistor. Via this resistor, it goes to the discharge transistor here. So the base of this transistor is nothing but the Q output of the RS flip-flop, RSR flip-flop. So now this collector transistor of this transistor collector output is connected to the supply voltage as well as the capacitor here. So now let us try to understand the working principle of this monostable multivibrator. In order to simplify the working, we have written here that we can go through this block diagram. In the initial stage, we are going to set output low. So let us understand here, we are going to set output as low. This is this is how we commence to understand this operation. When Q bar is low, Q remains at 1. So Q is high, Q bar is low. This is the initially we assume this condition. So Q is 1, therefore QD will be on. QD is on. So once this transistor QD is on, this is on here because the logic 1 or high voltage comes to the base of QD. The transistor goes to saturation. So now capacitor finds a path to discharge. So therefore capacitor um, starts discharging via the transistor here. So this the discharge path of a capacitor is shown here. So once capacitor discharges here, the voltage across capacitor becomes 0. So this VC is going to become 0 here. So the VC itself is the input to the non-inverting terminal of comparator 1. Now let us see that. So we have seen that for this condition, for Q is equal to 1 and Q bar is equal to low, QD is on and capacitor has discharged. So once capacitor discharges, voltage across capacitor becomes 0. Now, if we apply trigger input, trigger is a trigger applied with trigger voltage less than 1 by 3 VCC. Trigger is nothing but a pulse of this sort, where we can see here there is a trigger is a negative going pulse here. So now if trigger input goes less than 1 by 3 VCC here. So when the trigger input goes less than 1 by 3 VCC, let us see what changes happens in the at the output of two comparators here. So at trigger input, when the voltage falls here less than 1 by 3 VCC, already at non-inverting terminal 1 by 3 VCC voltage exists. Now at trigger input, if voltage falls less than 1 by 3 VCC, the output of comparator 2 goes to high. So that's what which is shown here. So when the trigger is applied, when the trigger voltage is less than 1 by 3 VCC, let us see what happens here. That makes reset as 1 here. Once we reset becomes 1, so the Q becomes 0. So this Q becomes 0. So Q becomes 0. When Q becomes 0, Q bar becomes 1. When Q bar becomes 1, so you can see that now output has jumped from 0. Earlier we assumed as 0. Now because of since the trigger falls less than 1 by 3, comparator 2 output goes to 1. Flip-flop will be reset. When flip-flop resets, Q bar becomes 1. The output at pin number 3 goes high. Now, let us see the condition of this QT transistor. The QD will become off now. So now this is no more in on condition. This QD becomes now it is in off condition here. So this transistor QD is in off condition now. So once a transistor becomes off, the capacitor now it is disconnected from the ground now. Once capacitor gets disconnected, the capacitor finds path to charge. So the output is high for this condition. Now capacitor starts charging towards VCC. Now we can observe the charging path of a capacitor. The capacitor charges via this supply voltage through the resistor. The capacitor gets charged here. So charging time constant is the product of resistance and capacitance. The meaning of that is how much time the capacitor takes to charge completely. So that depends on the product of this resistance and capacitance here. So output becomes high. Now for this, once capacitor keeps charging here, so output is stays at high. So though the trigger now at this point of time, if you just alter this trigger pulse, if the trigger becomes a 0 or trigger becomes high level, that doesn't make any change in the output here. So output remains in the high state only here. So that's what we have told here. The trigger becomes 0, R is equal to 0, or even if you make S is equal to 0 by changing the trigger pulse here, there is no change in the output here. Okay, so this is what we have seen now. Now capacitor will keep charging for the entire duration of on here. So now once capacitor keeps charging, voltage at pin number 6 keep increasing here. So pin number 6 is nothing but voltage at non-inverting terminal of comparator 1. Voltage here keeps rising here as long as capacitor starts charging. Already we have said that charging path is via the this resistance here. So once voltage at non-inverting keep rising, so now see that already we have established voltage at pin number 5, which is 2 by 3 VCC. At at this non-inverting terminal, when voltage keep rising, when this crosses this voltage, so output of comparator 1 becomes 1. Once the output of comparator changes to 1, then the flip-flop is going to set. This output now changes to 1 here, and when the Q becomes 1, Q bar becomes 0. So this flip-flop will jump to the original state here. For the duration of output pulse, here where it stays at 1 is called as a quasi-stable state, and for the duration which output state remains at 0 is called stable state. It has got one stable state and one quasi-stable state. In total, this monostable multivibrator has got two states. That's the low state is called as a stable state and high state is called as quasi-stable state. The reason for calling this as a quasi because it is a temporary state. As long as the capacitor keeps charging until that duration, it will remain in the high state. Once capacitor charges fully or it crosses the voltage here, if it crosses 2 by 3 VCC, the output returns back to the normal state or stable state here. So this is very important in the monostable multivibrator. Therefore, this monostable multivibrator is also called as one shot. It has got only one. The moment we apply a trigger here, it goes to the high state and comes back to the low state soon after the complete charging of capacitor here. So the same thing is explained here. So VC becomes once voltage across capacitor rises to 2 by 3 VCC. That makes set input as 1 and reset input becomes a 0. So that changes the output of flip-flop Q as a high and Q bar as a low. So now output will be low here. It returns back to the normal state here. So that in turn again makes a transistor, discharge transistor on. QD will go to the saturation and again capacitor keeps discharging. So the again voltage across capacitor becomes 0. So this overall this block diagram explains the working principle of monostable multivibrator. Now we will take up a specific application of this monostable multivibrator, namely the frequency divider. Let us see that how we can use monostable multivibrator for the frequency division application here. So the same circuit diagram has been written in the form of a schematic here. You can see here there is a resistance, there is a capacitance here. The comparators, flip-flops, everything has been embedded inside this integrated circuit here. That's not visible to us. So this circuit is called a schematic circuit of monostable multivibrator. And this shows the monostable multivibrator waveform. So the first waveform shows the trigger pulse. You can see here we are applying a negative going trigger pulse here. Whenever the trigger pulse falls less than 1 by 3 VCC, this pulse is applied to this pin number 2 of the this circuit here, which is monostable multivibrator. So whenever the trigger pulse falls less than 1 by 3, at this point of time you can see that the second waveform which shows the capacitor voltage. Capacitor voltage, it has a discharge here. The moment the trigger pulse goes low, capacitor starts charging. It charges all the way to the 2 by 3 VCC. The moment 2 by 3 VCC charges to the level of 2 by 3 VCC, we have seen that output changes its state and the Q becomes 1, and once Q becomes 1, the capacitor finds a path to discharge. So capacitor discharges and it all the way the voltage across capacitor becomes 0 once it is discharged here. Now capacitor charging is an exponential equation. So charging the voltage across the capacitor, charging voltage across the capacitor. So it starts from 0 and it charges on the way up to the 2 by 3 VCC. So this waveform shows the threshold capacitor voltage. And as long as the capacitor is charging, we can observe here the output pulse at pin number 3. It's going to be at high level here. So output of monostable multivibrator stays at high. When the capacitor is discharged, it stays output stays at low. When the capacitor charges, it stays at high. And once again, when the capacitor discharges, the output comes back to the normal state here. So this is called as a stable state, and we have a stable state here, and this is going to be quasi-stable state or temporary state. So this is the output observed at pin number 3 of 555 timer here. So one observation what we can make here, once the trigger pulse is applied, at this point of time capacitor starts charging and output pulse goes high. And in between, if you make any changes here, that's not going to reflect in the output. So this logic can be used in the application like frequency division. Okay. Now let us see how this frequency division circuit works here. What conditions we need to set to use this monostable multivibrator as a frequency divider. So we know that monostable multivibrator, it's the application of a trigger pulse. That's what we have seen. gives a positive going pulse at the output. That's a trigger pulse of this sort gives a positive going pulse at the output. Thus, the same monostable circuit can be used as a frequency divider if timing interval here is adjusted to be longer than the period of the input signal here. So this timing duration here, that's what we are saying here. If you adjust this time t on in this case, if you make it this longer, so this t on can is decided by the resistance, this particular resistance and the capacitance here. So this can be varied. Increase in resistor or capacitor value increases the t on. If we make this pulse width larger than the period of this trigger pulse, so the output of monostable multivibrator will become a frequency divider. We'll see that how it works. The condition here is the frequency divider, the timing interval is adjusted to be longer than the period of the input signal here. The period of this t-on of the pulse width should be longer than the period of this trigger pulse. So the circuit becomes a divide by 2 circuit here. The figure shows the monostable multivibrator as a divide by 2 circuit. Here the timing interval is t, which is kept slightly larger than the period t of the trigger input signal. Here in this case, we denote this small t to the pulse width duration. This t should be larger than the time period of the trigger input signal. If we satisfy that condition, then this circuit will work like a divide by 2 circuit here. And if we observe waveform, we will get to know that. So this is the first waveform shows it is the trigger pulse. Trigger pulse, this is level is this level is VCC by 3, and higher level is going to be the VCC here. So you can see periodically the trigger pulses are applied, and here we can observe the output pulse here. And here the condition is the output pulse, this duration should be larger than the period of this trigger pulse here. So the period of this is capital T, and the period of this is a small t here. Okay, so if you make t greater than this is, let us assume this is going to be a capital T. If you make t greater than capital T, then this circuit becomes a frequency divider circuit here. That we can see here. See, when the trigger pulse goes low, we have seen in the monostable operation here, when the trigger pulse is going low here, the output of a monostable multivibrator changes its state here. So it changes from low to high. So during this period, the capacitor will be charging. Once capacitor value reaches the 2 by 3 VCC, the output voltage drops here. So output voltage drops here. Now this period should be larger than this time period here, because here again, once again, the second negative pulse comes here, but since this period is not completed, so this negative going pulse here will not affect the output pulse here. So therefore, once till it completes, a capacitor completely charges. I mean it. The time constant is elapsed. The output doesn't change its state. So even though here we have applied periodically this negative triggering pulse comes here, this particular negative triggering pulse will not affect the output waveform. Therefore, it stays at high only here. And again, once the time constant is timing is completed, it goes to a low here. Okay. So again, if you apply when the next trigger pulse comes here, at that time it's going to change its state here. So now we can see here this is total is 2t, and this is going to be the it's nothing but one time period. You can see this time period, we can see the 2 pulses here. So therefore the circuit is called as a divide by 2 circuit here. So in this time you can see the 2 time periods here. This is one time period, another time period is here. Okay, so this is another time period. So for every 2 time period, triggering pulse, we can see the one output period in the at pin number 3 here. So this is one of the application of monostable multivibrator. The another application of monostable multivibrator is pulse width modulation here. This is very popular application of monostable multivibrator. The circuit, basic circuit remains same. There is no change in the basic circuit. Only thing is the signal that we apply here that changes. This again the same schematic circuit if you see in the schematic version which is shown here. Now we should apply the signal here, modulating signal here. This is a sinusoidal basically here. The modulating signal is applied to the pin number 5 and trigger pulse is applied to the pin number 2 and output is observed across the pin number 3. Rest all circuit remains same. There is a resistance here, there is a capacitance here and that remains the same here. Let's go through the points covered here under this topic here. The figure shows the pulse width modulator. This is the circuit version of pulse width modulation and this is the schematic version of pulse width modulation. It is basically a monostable multivibrator with a modulating input signal applied at the control voltage input. That is nothing but the pin number 5. So we need to apply modulating signal. Modulating means the signal that varies over the time. So such kind of signal should be applied to the pin number 5. The reason for giving the circuit adjacent to this schematic version is because we will understand here what changes happens in the circuit when we apply this modulating signal at pin number 5. So now we can go back to the circuit and observe mark where exactly the pin number 5 is there. Then you can see the what changes it happens at in the circuit here. Okay, so at pin number 5, which is nothing but control voltage. So at control voltage, you know the we are going to apply here the sinusoidal voltage, which is a time varying signal. So control voltage is nothing but this is actually the pin number 5 here. So here already we know that there exists a 2 by 3 VCC exists here. And now applying a sinusoidal voltage here, this voltage overrides this voltage 2 by 3 VCC. So therefore, you know, the once this voltage gets modified, that in turn, you know, the compares with the capacitor voltage and based on you know this voltage, the decisions comparator one, you know, the output is going to change. So now here the things to be understood here is so already we have seen in voltage divider rule at pin number 5 2 by 3 VCC exists. Now this pin number 5 is connected to the modulating signal. This 2 by 3 VCC is now overridden by this sinusoidal signal here. So same thing is continued here. Internally the control voltage is adjusted to 2 by 3 VCC. Externally applied modulating signal changes the control voltage and hence the threshold voltage level of the upper comparator one also changes. Okay, so once we change here the comparator one output, this also changes here. As a result, the time period required to charge the capacitor up to threshold voltage level also changes now. So it all depends on the sinusoidal voltage here. If it is increasing here, then you know the amount of time that's required for charging also keeps increasing here. So that means you know the width of the pulse also keeps changing here. It increases here. So that's what we have to observe here in the pulse width modulation. The definition of pulse width modulation is the width of the pulse keeps changing in accordance with the signal what we applied. In our case, we are applying sinusoidal signal here. According to this sinusoidal signal, the width of the output pulse keeps changing here. So for the positive signal here, you can observe there is a larger pulse width here, and when the signal goes negative, there is a smaller pulse width here. These kind of you know the changes in the width of the pulse, depending on the sinusoidal signal what we applied here, is called as a pulse width modulation here. So width of the pulse changes according to the sinusoidal signal here. So this clearly we can understand by if we go through this waveform here. The first waveform shows you the trigger pulses here. So output is going to change at all this negative trigger pulse here. When it falls less than 1 by 3 VCC, output is going to change. And now you can see here we are applying this voltage, sinusoidal voltage at the pin number 5. So as when sinusoidal goes to the positive, we can see that the width of the pulse keeps increasing here. It increases slowly here. Since it is slowly it is rising, the width is small here. When it goes to peak, width is large here. Again, sinusoidal signal is going towards 0. The amplitude decreases. When amplitude decreases, pulse width decreases. It's coming to zero, so it's very small pulse here. Now this is actually the manipulation. What we are doing is with reference to the capacitor charging. So as the sensual amplitude keeps increases, capacitor will take more time to charge. As and when the amplitude decreases, capacitor will take less time to charge in the original circuit here. So this waveform can be understood by looking the circuit simultaneously along with the waveform. So that helps us in understanding this waveform here. So this kind of waveform variation in the width of the pulse, okay, in accordance with the sinusoidal signal is called as pulse width modulation here. And we can derive the expression for the pulse width here. It may be noted from the output waveform that the pulse duration is according to the modulating signal level, but the frequency of the output pulses is the same as that of the trigger pulses here. Okay, that frequency is not going to change, and period also it's not going to change. Therefore, the width of the output pulse is given by W is equal to minus RC times ln. Ln is nothing but log to the base E into 1 minus UTP divided by VCC. So now we have expression for the UTP here. UTP is given by 2 by 3 VCC plus the amplitude of the modulating the signal here. And time period expression is given by T is equal to 1 by F clock here. That's nothing but a trigger input clock here. If you take reciprocal of trigger input clock, we can obtain the time period, the capital T. One more important thing is the duty cycle here. Duty cycle is a thing, but it is the on time divided by the total time period here. The ratio of W represents here on time. In a square waveform or rectangular waveform, how long the signal remains at high level. That's called as a on time. How much time it remains in the on state. So that's the thing but W here. That's divided by the total time period. This includes both off time and on time here. That gives us the duty cycle here. So duty cycle is usually expressed in percentage here. Okay, it may be the 25% or 50% for square wave, and even 75% for the rectangular wave. So now let us take up a problem, example here to understand this monostable multivibrator. So design a monostable for a pulse width of 10 millisecond using IC 555. Here pulse width is given as 10 millisecond here. The pulse width we have derived for the monostable multivibrator W is equal to 1.1 RC. So these expressions we must remember. So we can substitute directly once we know the expressions. Since we in examination we don't have time to derive each expressions, so it is better to remember you. So the width of the pulse is given as 10 milliseconds. So 10 into 10 to the power minus 3 equals 1.1 RC. There are two variables here, resistance and capacitance here. One value can be assumed. Generally, we assume capacitor value since capacitor values like we know 0.1 microfarad or 0.01 microfarad or 1 microfarad, and resistance value can be estimated here. So if I assume a capacitor value as 0.1 microfarad, the resistance value can be calculated from this expression here. So R value is found to be 90.909 kilo ohm here. This can be approximated to 91 kilo ohm. Sometimes this 91 kilo ohm may not be the standard value, may not be available. So therefore, we can use potentiometers to adjust. We can adjust 100 k potentiometer to the 91 kilo ohm resistance. Once we design the monostable multivibrator circuit, then we can substitute that values in the circuit here. So we have designed resistance value of 91 kilo ohm and capacitor value is 0.1 microfarad. So this generates a pulse about 10 milliseconds here. So to generate pulse width of 10 milliseconds, these two components are very important. Okay, next. So far we have covered the monostable multivibrator and its application. Now it's time to cover another important application of triple five timer, which is nothing but the astable multivibrator. Astable multivibrator is very much popular, and it's known as free running multivibrator. Similar to monostable multivibrator, astable multivibrator is also used in many applications. So now let us go through the basic circuit diagram and I understand the working principle of A-stable multivibrator using 555 timer here. The figure shows IC version of IC 555 timer. This complete thing is manufactured in the form of IC. This is an A-stable multivibrator circuit diagram. The threshold input is connected to the trigger input. So in the original circuit of 555 timer, if we connect the threshold and the trigger input together, you can see here we have connected the trigger and the threshold together. So the circuit becomes a stable multivibrator circuit, and a capacitor is used in the circuit. You can see there is a capacitor is connected to the junction of a short circuit between the threshold and the trigger. This capacitor. So this forms a stable multivibrator. So now here, unlike in most stable multivibrator, we have one stable state and other one is a quasi-stable state or a temporary state. But in a stable multivibrator, though we have two states and both states are temporary states, there is no stable state in a stable multivibrator. So the circuit keeps changing alternately. It changes. Sometimes the output pulse remains at high level, sometimes it remains at low level. So this is nothing but a sort of oscillation. So we can generate square wave using this A-stable multivibrator. Okay. So because since it keep oscillating between this on and off like this. So we'll see that in understanding of this circuit, how this circuit is able to generate on and off pulse, and see that on time on what factors it depends on, and off time on what factors it depends on. Okay. So now, as we already said, it is also called as a free running non-sinusoidal oscillator. So this is non-sinusoidal waveform is generated at the output of pin number 3. Now when the flip-flop is set, let us say assume that Q is high. In this case also, let us start with assuming Q is 1. When Q is 1, Q bar remains at 0. So we are at this level here. Okay, low level here. So now let us see where how this output changes to the 1. So since Q is 1, that goes to the transistor QD. QD will be turned on now. This becomes on because input coming is high. It moves to saturation. When the transistor moves to saturation, the capacitor finds a path to discharge now. This is going to be the discharge path. So capacitor discharges in this path shown here to the all voltage will go to the ground. Okay, so discharge path is now through RB, and here we can calculate the discharge time constant as a product of RB into C here. Since in the discharge cycle, RB is important here, so discharge time constant is RB into C here. So once capacitor discharges, voltage at this point reduces, voltage at threshold or in voltage at the trigger, it reduces, and we'll see the consequence of this, what happens in the output. So QD in saturation, and the capacitor gets discharged. So we have seen that. Now the capacitor voltage is nothing but the trigger voltage. So while discharging, when it becomes less than 1 by 3 VCC. So here capacitor, when it starts discharging, and the voltage here falls. Already we know here at this point there is a voltage as 1 by 3 VCC. At this point we have 2 by 3 VCC. Okay, so by applying voltage division rule, we can estimate this voltage levels here. So now here, once voltage here falls less than 1 by 3 VCC here, so the comparator 2 output goes high. So this comparator 2 output goes high. When comparator 2 output goes high, this resets the flip-flop. So output of flip-flop is going to change now to 0. Okay, let us write it here. This output of flip-flop now Q, it changes from 1 to 0 here, whereas Q bar changes from 0 to 1 here. So therefore output goes to high level here. So Q goes to low and Q bar goes to high. The low Q now, low Q is very important. Now low Q makes the transistor off now. So you can see we have seen here this output, the Q changes to 0. Now 0 goes to the QD transistor input. Now QD is not on now, it becomes off now. Once QD becomes off now, So the capacitor is disconnected from the ground. Capacitor gets a path to charge. So capacitor charges via this path here. Okay, so capacitor gets a supply source for supply, so it gets charged here. So the low Q makes the transistor off. Thus capacitor starts charging through the resistance RA and RB and VCC. You can see that in this path we have an RA, RB, and VCC. These are three components required for charging the capacitor. The charging path is shown in green color here. Green color here as total resistance. The charging path is now RA plus RB. That's going to be total resistance, and time constant is RA plus RB into C. Now, once the capacitor keeps charging, the voltage across capacitor increases. The capacitor voltage across capacitor nothing but the threshold voltage here. So threshold voltage increases while charging. The capacitor voltage increases. The threshold voltage once it crosses exceeds this 2 by 3 VCC. Already we have here the 2 by 3 VCC. Now once capacitor keeps charging, voltage here keeps rising. The threshold voltage keeps increasing. When threshold voltage keeps increasing, the comparator 1 output goes to high level here. So that's what it is shown here. Then the comparator 1 output goes to high, which sets the flip-flop. Now flip-flop output now it becomes 1 once again. It becomes high. When the Q becomes 1, Q bar becomes now 0. So that means the output waveform now return back to the 0 here. Now this same thing, same cycle now keeps repeating here. Okay, this capacitor sometimes it charges, it discharges, charges, discharges. As long as and the pulse stays at a high level, capacitor keeps charging. When the pulse goes to low level, capacitor keeps discharging. So this cycle keeps repeating, and the output we are able to get the square waveform here. Okay, so the capacitor is charging, output is going to be high. When it is discharging, the output is going to be low. So this charging and discharging produces output a rectangular waveform. However, by adjusting the resistance RA and RB, we can even generate a square waveform also. The capacitor voltage is exponentially rising and falling. So the waveforms are shown in the following here. You can see here these are the waveforms of a stable multivibrator. The first waveform is nothing but the capacitor voltage waveform here. So low level will be 1 by 3 VCC, and capacitor charges all the way to 2 by 3 VCC. When capacitor is charging in this path, you can see here the output pulse stays at high, and once it reaches 2 by 3 VCC, capacitor starts discharging. The output pulse remains at the low level here. So we have an on time and off time here. On time you can see that we can calculate the resistance, while the capacitor charging. RA plus RB is required, so therefore we can calculate on time constant for that. When the here capacitor keeps discharging, we can calculate discharging time constant here. Okay, so second waveform is nothing but the waveform at pin number 3. So here from this we can calculate the time period and the pulse width W. So we can also derive the expression for the pulse width for a stable multivibrator. And now let us derive the expression for the pulse width of a stable multivibrator here. Generally, the charging time constant is greater than the discharging time constant. We have seen from the circuit, since while charging, the two resistances are involved here, RA plus RB. Two resistances are involved here. So therefore, charging time constant is larger. While discharging, only RB is involved here. So therefore, discharge time constant will be less. So that's we are going to use here in this derivation here. So hence at the output waveform is not symmetric. We cannot get the symmetrical waveform at the output at pin number 3. So because charging time will be duration will be larger and discharging time duration will be small. That's what we can observe even here also. So while charging we have a larger pulse width here, and while discharging we have a smaller pulse width here. This is a rectangular waveform. Okay. So the high output remains for longer period than the low output. The ratio of high output period to the and low output period is given by the mathematical parameter called as a duty cycle. The ratio of high output to the total period gives the duty cycle here, and it is defined as the ratio of on time, that is high output to the total time of one cycle here. So if we indicate a W as the time for the output staying at high level, and if capital T is going to be the one time cycle or time period, then duty cycle is given by W divided by capital T. W is nothing but its on time, and capital T is nothing but the total time period. Usually we express duty cycle in percentage, so we can multiply that with 100. So W by T into 100, that gives the duty cycle in percentage. Now we can calculate the charging time constant for the capacitor here. So how much time it takes to charge. So charging time of capacitor is 0.693 times the resistance involved in its path of charging is Ra plus Rb. So this product gives you the charging time constant here. Students need not derive this formula, just they need to remember this expression here. So while discharging, only Rb resistance is involved here. Therefore, discharging time constant is 0.693 times Rb into Rb into C. And now total time constant, total time for one cycle is given by sum of these two, Tc plus Td. So if you substitute these two expressions here, so we get on simplification, we get T is equal to 0.693 times Ra plus 2 Rb times C. So while W is equal to Tc, that's nothing but on time. On time is nothing but the charging time which we have shown here. So which is equal to 0.693 times Ra plus Rb into C. Now from this we can calculate expression for the duty cycle. Duty cycle already we have shown here. It is W by T into 100%. W by T into 100. Substituting for W under T, so we get this expression for the duty cycle. On simplification, because 0.693 cancels here and the C capacitor also cancels here, and the percentage for duty cycle is Ra plus Rb divided by Ra plus 2Rb into 100. We can also calculate the frequency of oscillation here. If you take reciprocal of this expression here, if f is equal to 1 by T times 0.693 into Ra plus 2Rb into C here. If you take the reciprocal of this 0.693, which comes to the value of 1.44 divided by Ra plus 2Rb into C. This is the expression for frequency of oscillations here. At what rate the oscillations are produced, that can be calculated by this expression. F is equal to 1.44 divided by Ra plus 2Rb into C here, which is in hertz here. And if Ra is smaller than Rb here, the duty cycle will approach the 50% and output will be a square waveform here. So that you can observe if I make Ra value smaller than Rb, if we can look at here, if I make Ra value smaller, if you neglect this Ra compared to Rb here, so Tc becomes 0.693 times Rb into C, which is same as Td, discharging time constant here. So therefore, when the on time becomes charging time becomes equal to discharging time, the output waveform becomes a square waveform. Okay, so the same thing is explained here. Now this is going to be a schematic diagram of a stable multivibrator. We have an Ra, Rb, and a capacitor, and output is taken as pin number 3. So this is shown. This is schematic diagram for the stable multivibrator. And one observation you have to make here, the pin number 4 and the pin number 8 is short circuited here. Pin number 4 is reset, and that should be always high for normal operation. And pin number 8 is going to be the VCC. So these two pins are short circuited here. And pin number 5 is grounded here. We can see here pin number 5 is grounded via the capacitor. Small capacitor need to be connected at the pin number 5 here. So there are various applications of this stable multivibrator, but important application is going to be the voltage control oscillator. Shortly we call this as VCO. Now let us take one problem on a stable multivibrator. In this example, we need to design and determine the frequency of operation on duty cycle. A 555 timer is configured to run a stable mode with Ra given as 4 kilo ohm, Rb is given as 4 kilo ohm, and the capacitor value is 0.01 microfarad. We need to determine the frequency of the output on duty cycle here. We can use straight away the expressions that we have derived right now, and substituting the values of Ra, Rb, and capacitor value, the frequency of oscillation can be estimated here. So it is going to be 12 kilohertz. So for these sort of resistance and capacitance, the frequency of oscillation is 12 kilohertz. In turn, we can calculate the duty cycle also using duty cycle expression here. D equals Ra plus Rb divided by Ra plus 2Rb. So if you simplify this, it's going to be 0.6667 here. So 66.67% is going to be the duty cycle, which is on time divided by the total time period here. So basically this is going to be a rectangular wave, not a square wave. The duty cycle becomes equal to 50%. It's going to be a square wave. Okay. Uh, so now we have a variety of applications of the stable multi-operator. One important application is square wave generator. Already we have seen that the square wave application of stable multi-operator, we are doing some small modification to the circuit. So this becomes a very good the square wave generator. The modification is we are connecting a diode across the resistance RB here. So capacitor, while charging capacitor, so the path used by that is via the diode here. So this is the charging path of the capacitor. That means while charging, where the RB doesn't come into play. So therefore, charging time constant becomes equal to discharging time constant. So discharging time constant is RB into C, while charging time constant is RA into C here. If we choose identical values of this RA and RB, definitely we can generate a square waveform from this schematic circuit here. So the waveforms are as shown here. This is TC will become equal to TD and duty cycle is going to be 50%. So when capacitor is charging here, so we have an on pulse here. When the capacitor is discharging, we have an off pulse here. Since assume that RA and RB are going to be same, so this generates a identical on time and off time. So this is a square waveform which can be observed at the pin number 3. So with this, we have come to an end of today's class. In today's class, we have learned the important application of monostable multivibrator, which is nothing but the frequency divider. The second application of monostable multivibrator is the pulse width modulation. And later on, we discussed about the stable multivibrator operation and a few examples, and followed by the application of a stable multivibrator. So this completes, the triple flight timer. And the next class will take up the few topics from the module 3. Okay. Thank you very much for listening and have a nice day.